Alright, tacking tubing. This is 3-inch tubing or 6'5" wall. You can either hold it by hand or you can use a pair of pipe clamps. I'll show you a pair of them then. Alright, so I keep my heat between 40 and 45, depending how fast you can move. The tungsten is about that far out, so you can see what you're doing. Alright, now I do a little line of attack. I don't do a little dot because you're going to end up burning through, and you make it a line, it's just easier to weld over them too. And you strike your arc, set there till you get a good puddle going, and then move along. Okay? You get one on the top. I don't normally spin the tubing around, but so you guys can see, I'm going to. Right, so now you go on the bottom. You don't want huge tacks because it'll end up pulling the tubing away on the other end, and you'll have a big gap and you won't be able to get it together. So now, there's times when the tubing does not want to go together. With that, what you want to do is you take your tungsten, you get it, you keep it about an eighth, maybe 3/16 away from the tubing when you're tacking. Tap it when you're using a scratch start, you tap it, get your arc going, and you sit there until you get it together, and then you move along. But sometimes it doesn't go together, so all you got to do is just ever so slightly move it in towards the tubing, and when you get close to it, it should go together if it's not a major gap, and then you can just move along. The more you move, the less likely you are to burn through. These are a pair of pipe clamps that I made out of a pair of vice grips and some angle. They do well in position and even in the bench when you're tacking by yourself. You usually keep the handles up top so you're not struggling down below. Sometimes they get bent up and they don't hold it great. You just got to straighten them back out, but they do a pretty good job, especially on bigger stuff. I have a smaller pair for small stuff. When you got two tacks, you can just move them over. Pipe clamps are also good for holding your ground on the tubing when you don't have somewhere else to put your ground. Alright, there are times when the fit is not the greatest. You go and tack the top, and the bottom is a little gappier and it's not very easy to push down. In those instances, I tack the top and then tack the sides. And sometimes if you really have to, you run the tack down a little further than you normally would to try to get it together. Now, this is the only fitting I have to mess around with because they're expensive. And yeah, so this is a 45 degree, and I'm going to go over how I would weld a fitting, because stainless pulls like crazy, and depending how you do it, it's going to not be a 45 anymore. All right, then you brush your starts and stops. Now, the color of your weld is a good distinction if you have penetrated. This one is gray. If it's a lighter color, and this isn't always true, but a lighter color kind of means that it's not as broken down as it could be. I mean, I've had lighter colored welds that were broken down, but the darker colors usually mean that your heat is good and you have broken through. When it comes to tail offs, they can be tricky. Now, if you're freehanding, and you come up to the top here, you get to where you want to start tailing off, you start moving a little faster, and you can start pulling away a little bit. Ideally, you want a point, kind of, but you don't want a hole. I will show you the difference between abruptly stopping and a nice tail off. Now, when you walk the cup, it is a little more difficult because trying to speed up your walking can be a little challenging at times, but you also walk a little faster and you can pull up a little bit too. If your heat's a little too high, those don't always end nicely, but you can always go over it if need be. So I'm going to show you a tail off for freehand first, and then I will do walking the cup. All right, freehand tail off. You get a puddle going, and then tail off. Get a good puddle, sit there for a second, move on. When you decide you want to tail off, just speed up and slowly pull up. Now, walking the cup is a little trickier, but this is why I don't like my tungsten out really far. Because if your tungsten is out really far, it doesn't help with the tail off. So, you get a puddle going. I might have my tungsten a little further than normal, but we'll see. Walk along. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Then you speed it up a little bit. And voila. And I'm going to show you what a not so good tail off looks like. If I can do that. There's the freehand tail off. Notice a nice point. And this is the walking the cup tail off. A little less of a point, but there's no hole. Now this one is the abrupt stop. You don't want that because that could lead to a pinhole and it just looks horrible. So if you just abruptly stop, that is what you're gonna get. Thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment. Thank you.